The security footage didn't lie. For 3 nights straight, someone had been living in Kang Si-won's penthouse after hours, eating his food, sleeping in his guest room, using his shower. His security team wanted to call the police immediately, their fingers already hovering over their phones, ready to have the intruder arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But Si-won held up his hand, his dark eyes fixed on the grainy black and white images flickering across the monitor screen. Something about the figure moving through his space didn't sit right with him. The posture was careful, almost apologetic. This wasn't a thief casing his home for valuables. This was someone desperate. "Give me 24 hours, Si-won told his head of security, a stern-faced man named Jun-ho who'd been with him for 15 years. "Don't touch anything, don't change any codes. I want to handle this personally." Jun-ho's expression betrayed his concern. "Young-nim, this could be dangerous. We don't know who this person is or what they want. They could be working for the Zhao family, gathering intelligence, waiting for the right moment to—" "It's not the Zhaos." Si-won's voice was certain. He'd watched the footage 3 times now, studying every movement, every hesitation. Look at how they move. They're scared. They check the door every few minutes like they expect to be caught. They take only what they need, a sandwich, some fruit, water. They shower quickly and clean up after themselves. This is someone hiding, not someone planning an attack. Still, Jun-ho looked unconvinced. "You're sure about this?" "I'm sure." Si-won stood, straightening his suit jacket. "I'll be there at midnight, alone. Keep everyone else away from the building." "Alone? Sir, I can't recommend—" "I'm not asking for recommendations." Si-won's tone turned cold, the voice of a man who'd built an empire through blood, strategy, and unwavering authority. "I'm giving you orders. Stand down and let me handle this." That night, Si-won arrived at his Century City penthouse at precisely midnight. The building was silent, his footsteps echoing on the marble floors as he rode the private elevator to the top floor. His heart was beating faster than usual, not from fear, but from something else. Curiosity, maybe. Or perhaps it was the strange feeling that his carefully controlled world was about to shift in ways he couldn't predict. He used his key silently, disabling the alarm with quick fingers, then slipped inside. The penthouse was dark, except for a soft light coming from the kitchen. He moved toward it like a shadow, years of navigating dangerous situations, making him virtually silent. And then he saw her. Naomi Chen, his housekeeper of 8 months, stood frozen in his kitchen with a sandwich halfway to her mouth. She wore the same navy blue uniform from her shift 12 hours ago, now wrinkled and slightly stained. Her natural hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her dark skin seemed to glow in the soft kitchen light. A duffel bag sat by the service entrance, clearly packed for a quick escape. Her eyes, beautiful, terrified, exhausted, went wide when she saw him. For a moment, neither of them moved. Si-won watched her calculate the distance to the door, saw her fingers tighten on the sandwich, watched her entire body prepare to run. And something in him broke open at the sight of her fear. "Don't run," he said quietly, keeping his hands visible and his voice soft. "I'm not calling anyone, just tell me why." Naomi's chest heaved with rapid breaths. She set down the sandwich with shaking hands, and Si-won could see tears gathering in her eyes, tears she was fighting desperately not to let fall. Her chin lifted in defiance even as her body trembled, and he felt a surge of respect for this woman who was trying to maintain dignity in an impossible situation. "I'll leave," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Right now. I'll pack my things and be gone in 5 minutes. I'll pay you back for the food, I swear. Every penny. I keep track of what I've taken. It's all written down. I'll work extra shifts. That's not what I asked." Si-won took a careful step closer, moving slowly like he was approaching a frightened animal. "Why are you living in my home, Naomi?" She stared at him for a long moment. This man who controlled half of Los Angeles's underground economy, whose name made hardened criminals nervous, whose reputation was built on ruthlessness and precision. She'd cleaned his home for 8 months, invisible and silent, never exchanging more than polite greetings. She'd seen the late-night meetings, The men in expensive suits speaking in hushed Korean, the way everyone deferred to him with respect, bordering on fear. She knew what he was, even if she didn't know the details. But now, standing in his kitchen at midnight, caught in her most desperate moment, she saw something different in his eyes. Not anger, not disgust, but genuine concern, and something that looked almost like hurt, as if her fear of him caused him actual pain. "I have nowhere else to go," she finally said, her voice breaking on the last word. Then with trembling hands, she reached into her duffel bag and pulled out a folder of documents. She held them out to him like an offering, or maybe a confession. "This is why." Siwon took the folder and opened it, his expression neutral as he read. But inside, his chest tightened with each page. The eviction notice was dated 2 weeks ago. Final notice, pay or vacate within 72 hours. Behind it were hospital bills, thousands upon thousands of dollars for emergency room visits, surgeries, medications. Behind those, a restraining order against someone named David Chen, along with police reports documenting threats, harassment, property damage. "My brother," Naomi whispered, wrapping her arms around herself. "David, he's 5 years younger than me. I practically raised him after our parents died. I thought I'd done right by him. Put him through community college, helped him get a job, tried to keep him on the straight path." Her voice turned bitter. "But he got involved with the wrong people. Started gambling, borrowing money from loan sharks. When he couldn't pay, they came after me for his debts, said family was responsible. They trashed my apartment, threatened my boss, sent pictures of me at work with red X's marked over my face." Siwon's jaw clenched, but he remained silent, letting her talk. "I lost my apartment because the landlord said I was bringing dangerous elements into his building. Lost my savings, paying for David's hospital bills when the loan sharks sent someone to teach him a lesson. Lost my sense of safety because I never knew when they'd show up again." She laughed, a broken sound. "I've been sleeping in my car for 2 weeks, but then it broke down and I couldn't afford to fix it. I was cleaning your place and I thought maybe for one night I could sleep somewhere safe. Somewhere with locks and security, just one night." 3 nights, Siwon said softly. 3 nights, she admitted, fresh tears spilling over. "I'm sorry. I know it was wrong. I know I violated your trust and your privacy. I'll leave right now and you'll never see me again. Just please don't call the police. Please. I can't have an arrest record. I can't lose this job. It's all I have left." Siwon carefully set down the folder and studied her face, really looked at her for the first time in 8 months. He'd noticed things before, of course. The way she organized his books by color because it looked happier, even though he'd specifically arranged them chronologically. How she left his coffee maker ready each morning, exactly how he liked it, even though that wasn't part of her job description. The small vase of bodega flowers she'd occasionally place on his kitchen counter, bringing color and life into his sterile space. The notes she'd leave, gentle reminders to eat when he worked late. Suggestions to open windows because the air was stuffy. Tiny acts of care from someone who had no reason to care about him. He'd noticed her humming sometimes while she worked, old soul songs that reminded him of his grandmother's Korean folk music. Different cultures, but the same essence of longing and hope. He'd noticed how she never complained, never asked for anything, never made herself burdensome. She moved through his space like a benevolent ghost, making his life better and asking for nothing in return. And now she stood before him, stripped of all pretense, desperate and terrified, and still somehow dignified, still proud, still strong despite everything trying to break her. "How much does your brother owe?" he asked. Naomi blinked, surprised by the question. What? "The loan sharks. How much does David owe them?" She shook her head. "It doesn't matter. I can't." "How much, Naomi?" $40,000. She laughed bitterly. "Might as well be 40 million for someone like me. I make barely above minimum wage. After rent and food and bills, I save maybe 200 a month. It would take me years to pay that off, and they want it now. With interest, it goes up every week. Saiwon pulled out his phone, and Naomi's eyes widened in panic. Please, Mr. Kang, please don't call the police. I'll leave right now. I'm not calling the police. He held up a hand to calm her. I'm making a different call. The men who threatened you, do you know their names? What organization they work for? Naomi's eyes narrowed with sudden suspicion. Why? Because, Saiwon said calmly, already scrolling through his contacts. You're not leaving. You're staying here properly, in the guest room as an official resident, and your brother's debt is about to disappear. I can't let you. You're not letting me do anything. His tone left no room for argument, the voice of a man accustomed to absolute obedience. I'm doing it because someone who's been secretly living in my home for 3 days, rather than asking for help, clearly doesn't know how to accept it. Someone who'd rather sleep on the floor than use my guest bed, who keeps a detailed list of food taken so she can pay it back, who's still trying to maintain dignity in an impossible situation. That person deserves better than what life has given her. He met her eyes. So I'm not asking, Naomi. I'm telling you, you're under my protection now. And in my world, that means something. The next morning, Naomi woke in Egyptian cotton sheets that cost more than her former monthly rent, in a bedroom larger than her entire previous apartment. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, bathing the room in golden light. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back, Saiwon finding her in his kitchen, the conversation that followed, his shocking declaration that she would stay. She'd barely slept, too wired with anxiety and confusion. After Saiwon had made several phone calls in rapid Korean, he'd shown her to the guest room, provided her with fresh towels and toiletries, and told her to rest. She'd stood in the marble bathroom for 20 minutes, just staring at herself in the mirror, trying to understand how her life had changed so dramatically in the span of an hour. Now, she forced herself out of bed and dressed in her uniform, unsure what else to do. Should she leave? Start cleaning? Pretend this was a normal workday? The situation felt surreal, untethered from reality. She found Saiwon in the dining room, suit perfectly pressed despite the late night, reading something on his tablet. The morning light softened his sharp features, making him look younger than his 38 years. He glanced up as she entered, and something in his expression gentled. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the elaborate breakfast spread on the table. Fresh fruit, pastries, rice, soup, banchan, enough food for 6 people. We need to talk. Mr. Kang, I appreciate what you did last night, but I can't stay here. It's not appropriate. People will talk, and I don't want to cause problems for you or Siwon. He interrupted her gently but firmly. If you're living here, use my name. And sit down, Naomi. Please. The please did it. She sat, overwhelmed by the spread before her. When was the last time she'd had a proper meal? She couldn't remember. Eat, Siwon said, pushing a plate toward her. You look like you haven't had a decent meal in weeks. I've been managing fine. You've been starving. His voice was matter of fact. I've noticed you getting thinner over the past month. I assumed you were dieting. Now I understand why. He poured her coffee without asking how she took it, but he got it exactly right. 2 sugars, a splash of cream. Eat, Naomi, then we'll talk. She ate, trying not to seem too desperate, even though she was ravenous. The food was incredible, clearly prepared by a professional chef. Siwon ate as well, occasionally refilling her plate when it emptied, saying nothing, just ensuring she was fed. Finally, when she couldn't eat another bite, he set down his chopsticks and looked at her directly. Your brother's debt has been cleared. I purchased it from the loan sharks this morning. David owes them nothing. Naomi's cup clattered against the saucer. You what? $40,000, just like that? It's handled. Saiwon waved dismissively, as if $40,000 was pocket change. The men who threatened you have been informed that you're under my protection. They won't bother you again. Your hospital bills are paid. I've also arranged for your car to be repaired. It'll be ready this afternoon. Why? The word came out strangled. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." "Don't I?" Saiwan leaned back in his chair, studying her. "I know that every Tuesday you rearrange my bookshelves by color, even though I've specifically organized them by date. You do it because you think chronological order is too depressing and that books should spark joy. You told my assistant that once, thinking I wasn't listening." Naomi's mouth fell open slightly. "I know you water my plants, even though that's not in your job description, and you've somehow kept alive that terrible fiddle-leaf fig that every other housekeeper killed within a month. I know you open my windows exactly 3 inches because you figured out I like fresh air but hate strong wind. I know you leave my coffee maker ready each morning because you've observed my routine and want to make my mornings easier." His voice softened. "I know you hum when you work, old soul songs from the 70s and 80s, Marvin Gaye, Aretha Franklin, Bill Withers, your grandmother's favorites, I'd guess." Naomi felt tears burning her eyes. "You noticed all that?" "I notice everything about my space, Naomi, and you've been the most notable thing in it for 8 months. He paused. 3 nights ago, I watched you on the security footage. I saw you cry yourself to sleep on my guest room floor. You didn't even use the bed. You slept on the floor like you didn't deserve comfort, like you were so used to making yourself small and unobtrusive that even in crisis, you couldn't take up space." His jaw tightened. "That made me angrier than any business betrayal ever has." "You watched me sleep?" She should feel violated. Instead, she felt seen in a way she'd never experienced before. "I watched you suffer," he corrected quietly. "I watched someone who's been taking care of my home for months, who's shown me small kindnesses without expecting anything in return, break down because she had nowhere else to go. And I realized I'd been so wrapped up in my own world that I'd failed to see when someone right in front of me was drowning." Naomi wiped her eyes roughly. "I'm not your responsibility." "You are now." The declaration was absolute. "I'm offering you a place here, Naomi. Stay. Work for me properly, not just cleaning. I need someone I can trust with my business affairs. Someone organized, discreet, intelligent. You've proven you're all of those things. I'll pay you a proper salary, provide room and board, and ensure you and your brother are protected." "Trust?" Naomi laughed shakily. "You barely know me. I broke into your house." "You survived," Saiwan said intensely. "There's a difference. You did what you had to do to stay safe, and you did it without stealing from me, without causing damage, without betraying the trust I'd placed in you as my housekeeper. Even at your lowest, you maintained integrity. That tells me exactly who you are." "I'm nobody," Naomi whispered. "I'm just a maid. You're a woman who keeps detailed lists of food taken so she can pay it back. A woman who sleeps on the floor rather than use a bed she hasn't been given permission to use. A woman who's been sending money to her irresponsible brother, even while facing homelessness herself, because you believe in family loyalty." Siwon leaned forward. "Naomi, you're not nobody. You're exactly the kind of person I need in my life. Honest, careful, strong." She met his eyes, saw genuine conviction there. "What do you really want from me?" Saiwan was quiet for a long moment. "Honestly, I want you to stay. Keep organizing my chaos. Keep leaving me notes reminding me to eat. Keep being the only real person in my life." He paused, something vulnerable crossing his features. "And maybe, eventually, let me take you to dinner. As equals. Not employer and employee. Not because you feel obligated, but because you want to." Naomi's breath caught. "You're asking me on a date. I'm asking if you'd consider it. Later. When you feel safe enough to say yes because you want to, not because you feel you owe me." His gaze held hers. "I won't lie to you, Naomi. I'm attracted to you. I have been for months, but I also respect that you're in a vulnerable position right now, and the last thing I want is for you to feel pressured. You're Kang Siwon," she said slowly. "You're Korean. I'm black. Your world is whatever I say it is." His voice turned steel. "I don't care about race, Naomi. I care about character, and yours is impeccable. He softened. But I understand if that's a concern for you, if you're worried about how others will react. If you need time to think about all of this, I'm offering you safety and employment. The rest, anything beyond that, is entirely your choice. No pressure, no expectations. Naomi stared at him, this powerful man who could have called the police, who could have had her arrested, who instead was offering her a lifeline and asking for nothing in return. Well, almost nothing. He wanted her to stay, to be present, to consider the possibility of something more. "This is insane," she said finally. "Probably," Siwon smiled, rare and genuine. "But I've built an empire on calculated risks. You, Naomi Chen, feel like the best risk I've ever taken." She looked at the breakfast spread, at the comfortable room beyond, at this man who saw her when she'd spent years being invisible. She thought about her car being repaired, her brother's debt erased, her hospital bills paid. She thought about sleeping on floors and going hungry and living in constant fear. And then she thought about the notes she'd left for Siwon, the small acts of care she'd performed, not because she had to, but because something about him had called to her protective instincts. The way his face softened when he came home to find flowers on his counter. How he'd once thanked her for the coffee setup with genuine gratitude. The time she'd found him asleep at his desk and covered him with a blanket, and he'd later mentioned it was the best sleep he'd had in months. Maybe this was insane, but maybe insane was exactly what she needed. "Okay," she whispered, "I'll stay, but I earn my keep. I work for you properly, learn your business, make myself useful. This isn't charity." It never was. Siwon extended his hand. "Partners?" Naomi took it, felt the warmth and strength in his grip. "Partners," she agreed, and sealed a deal that would change both their lives forever. 3 weeks later, Naomi stood in Siwon's private office at his flagship restaurant, watching him negotiate with suppliers through a video call. She'd learned quickly that his world was complex. Import-export businesses, restaurants, real estate, and underneath it all, the shadow organization that connected everything. He'd been surprisingly forthright about his involvement in Los Angeles' Korean underworld, and she'd been surprisingly okay with it after understanding the nuances. "Your world isn't that different from mine," she told him one night over late dinner. "You protect your people. You create opportunities for immigrants who can't get traditional bank loans. You maintain order in communities the police ignore. It's not legal, but it's not evil either. It's survival." Siwon had looked at her with such profound relief. "You understand." "I understand grey areas," Naomi replied. "I've lived in them my whole life." Now she tracked his expressions during the video call, noting the micro-expressions that betrayed his thoughts. When the call ended, she spoke without looking up from her laptop. "He's lying about the quantity. The manifest shows one amount, but the invoice shows another. He's skimming." Siwon leaned back in his chair, impressed. "You caught that? You do that thing with your jaw when someone's trying to cheat you." Naomi pulled up spreadsheets, highlighting discrepancies. "The supplier has been overcharging you for 6 months, small amounts each time, hoping you wouldn't notice, but it adds up to almost 70,000 in overages. And what would you do about it?" Naomi considered. "Cut him off, publicly, make an example so others know you're paying attention." She paused. "But offer him a way out if he returns what he stole. Your reputation stays intact, he doesn't lose everything completely, and others learn the lesson. Mercy with consequences." Siwon's smile was dangerous and delighted. "You've been paying attention. You told me to learn your business." Naomi moved to his side of the desk, detailed notes in hand. "These discrepancies? They're systematic. He's been doing this since his daughter got sick. Medical bills, I'd guess. He got desperate and stupid. You researched him?" "I research everyone you deal with now." She met his eyes. "That's my job. Know the players, understand their motivations, anticipate problems before they become disasters." Siwon caught her hand, the gesture natural now after weeks of slowly increasing familiarity. "You're remarkable, you know that?" "I'm practical." But she didn't pull away. Over the past 3 weeks, they developed a careful dance, professional during business hours, but with moments of warmth that hinted at deeper feelings. Hands that lingered when passing documents. Conversations that stretched late into the night. The way he brought her coffee without asking, remembering exactly how she liked it. The way she straightened his tie before important meetings, her fingers gentle against his collar. They hadn't crossed any lines. Not yet. But the tension was building, inevitable as a storm. "Naomi," Siwon said quietly, still holding her hand, "can I ask you something personal?" "Always. Are you happy here? Truly happy, not just grateful for the security?" She thought about her answer carefully. "I'm more myself here than I've been in years. You don't just see me, Siwon. You value me. My opinions matter. My presence matters. When I walk into a room, you look up and smile like I'm the best part of your day." Her voice softened. "Yes, I'm happy. Good." He stood, still holding her hand, bringing them face to face. "Because you've become essential to me. Not just for business, for everything. You make me laugh. You challenge my decisions. You've reorganized my entire life, and somehow it works better than it ever did before. Siwon, I know we agreed to keep things professional. I know you need time to feel secure before we explore anything else. I'm trying to be patient." His free hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. "But Naomi, I'm falling in love with you. I think I have been since that first night when you stood in my kitchen looking terrified but refusing to beg. When you tried to maintain dignity even at your lowest point. I've been falling ever since, and I don't want to stop." Naomi's heart hammered. She should step back, should maintain professional distance, should protect herself from the vulnerability of loving someone who lived in danger, who made enemies as easily as allies, who could break her heart with the same efficiency he used to run his empire. Instead, she kissed him. Siwon made a surprised sound, then pulled her closer, kissing her back with weeks of pent-up longing. His hands framed her face like she was precious, like she might disappear if he didn't hold on. Naomi fisted her hands in his shirt, pulling him closer, surrendering to feelings she'd been trying to deny. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Siwon pressed his forehead to hers. "I've wanted to do that since the moment you reorganized my books by color." Naomi laughed breathlessly. "That's a weird thing to find attractive." "Everything about you is attractive." He kissed her again, softer this time. "Your strength, your intelligence, the way you hum when you're concentrating, how you leave me notes reminding me to eat because you care if I take care of myself, the way you've transformed my cold apartment into a home just by being in it." "I was so scared that night," Naomi admitted. "Terrified you'd call the police, throw me out, destroy what little I had left. Instead, you gave me everything." She touched his face, traced his jawline. "Safety, purpose, respect. You, Siwon. You gave me you." "Then we're even," he murmured, "because you gave me someone to come home to. Someone who sees past the reputation to who I actually am. Someone who makes me want to be better." He pulled back to look at her. "I love you, Naomi. Completely, impossibly, entirely. That's the first time you've said it. It won't be the last." He kissed her deeply. "I plan on saying it every day for the rest of our lives if you'll let me." "I love you too," Naomi whispered against his lips. "I tried not to, tried to keep distance, but you made it impossible." "Good." Siwon smiled against her mouth. "I was aiming for impossible." They were interrupted by a knock on the door. Junho entered, then stopped short, seeing them. His expression flickered with surprise, then carefully neutral professionalism. "My apologies, Hyung-nim. I didn't mean to interrupt." "It's fine." Siwon didn't let go of Naomi. "What is it?" "The Zhao family has requested a meeting. They want to discuss territory agreements." Siwon's expression hardened. "Tell them I'll consider it. Schedule it for next week. And Junho?" He pulled Naomi closer. "Naomi will be attending all my meetings from now on. Spread the word. She speaks with my authority." Junho's eyes widened slightly, understanding the significance. "Of course, Hyung-nim." He bowed and left. Naomi looked at Saiwon. "You just publicly claimed me." "I did." His voice was unapologetic. "Everyone needs to know you're mine, that you're protected, that anyone who disrespects you disrespects me." He softened. "Unless you don't want that. Unless it's too much too fast." "It's terrifying," Naomi admitted, "but I want it, want you, want this life we're building." "Then it's yours," Saiwon promised. "All of it." 6 months later, Naomi stood in their office. She thought of it as theirs now, not his, managing accounts with practiced efficiency. She'd become invaluable to Saiwon's organization, not through force, but through competence. People respected her sharp mind, her fair judgments, her ability to see solutions others missed, and they respected her because Saiwon made it clear that disrespecting Naomi meant making an enemy of him. There had been challenges. Some of the older members of the organization struggled with a black woman in a position of power. Some questioned her qualifications, her background, her right to be there. Saiwon had dealt with dissenters swiftly and decisively. After the first 2 voluntary retirements, everyone else fell in line. Naomi had also dealt with her share of prejudice outside the organization. Stares when she and Saiwon went to Korean restaurants. Whispers about interracial relationships. Comments about fetishes and social climbing. One particularly awful incident where a woman had called her a gold digger to her face at a business dinner. Saiwon had gone absolutely still. Then, in a voice like frozen steel, he'd said, "Naomi has more integrity in her little finger than you have in your entire body. She's brilliant, accomplished, and the best thing that's ever happened to me. Apologize to her. Now." The woman had stammered an apology. They'd left immediately after, and Saiwon had blacklisted her company from all future business. "You didn't have to do that," Naomi had said in the car. "Yes, I did." Saiwon's hand had tightened on hers. "Nobody disrespects you. Not ever." Now, months later, they'd found their rhythm. Naomi managed the legitimate business operations with devastating efficiency. She'd implemented new systems, renegotiated contracts, identified cost savings, and increased profits by 18%. Saiwon handled the shadow work, though he'd been slowly transitioning toward legitimacy, partly because Naomi made him want to build something that could exist in the light. "Mrs. Kang," someone called from the doorway. Naomi turned with a smile. They weren't married yet, but everyone called her that anyway. It had started as a sign of respect, acknowledging her position, and then it had just stuck. She didn't correct people anymore. "Not yet," she replied. 2 more weeks. They'd gotten engaged 3 months ago. Saiwon had proposed on a random Tuesday morning over breakfast. No grand gesture, just honest words. "Marry me. Let me spend my life making you as happy as you make me." Naomi had said yes through tears. The wedding was planned for autumn, a fusion of Korean and African-American traditions that felt uniquely theirs. Naomi's extended family would fly in from Louisiana, Georgia, Texas. Saiwon's relatives would come from Seoul. It would be beautiful chaos, and they couldn't wait. The door opened wider, and Saiwon entered with Naomi's brother David, who'd been working at the restaurant for the past 6 months. Under Saiwon's strict but fair mentorship, David had transformed. He'd gotten clean, worked hard, proved himself reliable. The scared, desperate kid who'd made terrible choices had become a responsible man. "He's ready," Saiwon announced. "David can manage the new location." Naomi studied her brother, seeing the confidence in his stance, the pride in his eyes. "You sure about this, David?" "I'm sure." David met her gaze steadily. "I won't let you down, Naomi. Not again. I know I've got a long way to go to make up for what I put you through, but I'm trying. Every day I'm trying." Naomi hugged him tightly. "I know you are. I'm proud of you." After David left, glowing with purpose, Naomi turned to Saiwon. "You didn't have to give him such a big opportunity. Manager of a new location is huge. He's earned it." Saiwon pulled her close, arms wrapping around her waist. "He's worked harder than anyone else, stayed late every night, learned everything I've taught him. Plus, he's your family. That makes him mine. You've been good to him, to both of us. You've been good for me." Saiwon kissed her forehead. "I've been thinking about that night a lot lately. The night I found you in my kitchen. What would have happened if I'd called the police like Junho wanted? If I'd never seen your face, never learned your story? You'd still be coming home to an empty apartment." "Exactly." His arms tightened. "I'd still be going through motions, building an empire for no real reason, surrounded by people but completely alone. You saved me, Naomi, not the other way around." "We saved each other," she corrected softly. "You gave me security and purpose. I gave you a reason to come home. You gave me everything." Saiwon pulled back to look at her. "My life was hollow before you. Now it's full, rich, meaningful. I wake up excited because you're there. I come home happy because you're waiting. You've transformed everything." Naomi touched his face tenderly. "I love you so much it scares me sometimes." "Don't be scared." He kissed her palm. "I'll never let anything hurt you. Never let anyone make you feel small or invisible or less than the incredible woman you are." "I know." And she did. Siwon's protection was absolute, his love unwavering. In 6 months, he'd never once made her doubt her place in his life. Her phone buzzed with a reminder. "We have the venue walkthrough in an hour. For our wedding." Saiwon smiled, that rare, genuine smile he reserved only for her. "I still can't believe you agreed to marry me." "I can't believe you asked." Naomi laughed. "What are you going to do with a wife who reorganizes your books and leaves you notes?" "Love her," Saiwon said simply. "Every day for the rest of my life, exactly as she is." Their wedding day dawned clear and bright, the autumn sun casting everything in golden light. The venue was a beautiful garden estate in Malibu, decorated with a fusion of traditions that represented both their cultures. Korean lanterns hung alongside magnolia branches. Traditional drums would play before a gospel choir. It was unique and perfect and entirely them. Naomi stood in her dressing room, looking at herself in the mirror. She wore a custom hanbok for the ceremony, burgundy and gold silk that made her dark skin glow. Later, she'd change into her grandmother's restored wedding dress, a 1950s confection of lace and satin that had crossed generations. 2 dresses for 2 cultures, united in one love. "You look beautiful, baby girl," her Aunt Cheryl said, adjusting Naomi's hair. "Your grandmother would be so proud. I wish she could be here." "She is here." Cheryl touched Naomi's heart. "She's right here, watching you marry a man who cherishes you. That's all she ever wanted for you." There was a knock on the door. David poked his head in, sharp in his suit. "Ready? Siwon looks like he's about to have a heart attack out there. Man's never been this nervous, even when facing down the Zhao family." Naomi laughed, nerves and joy bubbling up. "I'm ready." The ceremony was beautiful. Naomi walked down the aisle to a Korean drum performance that transitioned into "At Last" by Etta James. Saiwon stood at the altar in traditional Korean wedding attire, and when he saw her, his eyes filled with tears. They performed the traditional Korean bows to each other and their families. Then they exchanged Western vows, words they'd written themselves. Saiwon spoke first, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "Naomi, I found you at your lowest, but you were never low. You were strong, surviving impossible circumstances with grace and dignity. You taught me what real strength looks like. Not power or control, but resilience and hope." He held her hands. "You made my house a home, my life a life worth living. You challenged me, changed me, made me want to be better. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and leave coffee ready for you every morning, exactly how you like it." Naomi laughed through tears. "You've been doing that for months." He smiled. "Small kindness for someone who gives me everything." Naomi's vows were simple but profound. "Siwon, I was invisible until you looked at me, lost until you found me, afraid until you made me brave. You saw me when everyone else looked through me. You valued me when I didn't value myself. You loved me when I felt unlovable." Her voice strengthened. "I promise to keep reorganizing your books by color, to leave you notes when you work too hard, to bring flowers into our home and light into your life, to love you fiercely, honestly, completely, my unexpected savior, my partner, my home." When they kissed, the gathered crowd erupted in cheers. Korean and black families united in celebration, two communities merging into one. The reception was joyous chaos. Korean food and soul food side by side on buffet tables, a live band playing everything from K-pop to Motown. Siwon's grandmother, who'd flown in from Seoul, dancing with Naomi's uncle from New Orleans. David giving a speech about second chances and redemption that left everyone in tears. Junho, stoic Junho, admitting that he doubted Naomi at first, but now considered her family. Late in the evening, Siwon pulled Naomi onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. They swayed to Bill Withers' "Ain't No Sunshine," holding each other close. "Happy?" Siwon murmured against her hair. Deliriously, Naomi pulled back to look at him. "How did we get here? From that night in your kitchen to this?" "You took a risk. So did I." He kissed her softly. "Best risk either of us ever took." "I love you, Kang Siwon." "I love you, Kang Naomi." He spun her gently. "My wife, my partner, my everything." Years passed in beautiful succession. Naomi continued to work alongside Siwon, their partnership legendary in both business and personal spheres. They'd fully legitimized the operations, turning the Shadow Empire into a thriving network of restaurants, import businesses, and community development projects. They created jobs, funded scholarships, built affordable housing. David became one of their most trusted managers, eventually opening his own restaurant with their backing. He married, had children, lived the life he'd almost thrown away. Naomi and Siwon had children too, two daughters who inherited their mother's intelligence and their father's determination. They raised them in both cultures, speaking Korean and English, celebrating Chuseok and Christmas, teaching them that love transcends all boundaries. But Naomi's favorite moments were still the quiet ones, coming home to find Siwon reading to their daughters. Morning coffee prepared exactly how she liked it. The notes they still left for each other, decades into marriage. The way he still looked at her like she was the most precious thing in his world. One evening, as they sat on their balcony overlooking the city, Siwon asked, "Do you ever think about that night, when I caught you?" "Every day." Naomi leaned into his side. "I think about how terrified I was, how certain I was that my life was ending. Instead it was beginning." She kissed him softly. "You didn't just save me that night, Siwon. You saw me. Really saw me when I'd spent years being invisible. That was the real gift, not the money or the security, but being seen, being valued, being loved." "Impossible not to see you," he murmured. "You've always been the brightest thing in any room. I just happened to be the first person paying real attention, and I'm grateful every day that you did." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights twinkle below. Two people from different worlds who'd found each other in the most unlikely circumstances. A crime boss and a housekeeper, a Korean man and a black woman. Two lonely souls who'd recognized in each other something essential and true. "Thank you," Siwon said suddenly. "For what?" "For breaking into my house." He smiled at her shocked laugh. "For being brave enough to survive. For giving me the chance to love you. For making my life infinitely better than I ever imagined it could be." Naomi touched his face tenderly. "Best breaking and entering I ever did. Best discovery I ever made," Siwon countered, pulling her close. And in their home, built from desperation and transformed by love, they proved that sometimes the best things in life come not from careful planning or perfect circumstances, but from moments of pure vulnerability, when two people choose to see each other truly, love each other wholly, and build something beautiful from the ruins of their separate loneliness.